that elected delegates mean only those that you elect that time. The so-called
that one has been controversial.
Yeah, I think that
no.
So let's put yes. On top of that, for the election of that 3-man thing, there are also guidelines of the party that the party ought to follow. And what happened in Abia State was that those guidelines were not followed. And we made representation, because usually they will tell you, oh, you know, you have to follow party guidelines. So we made a representation from the state to the national. We met with the national chairman and the national working committee, and we made a presentation and said, these guidelines were not followed. Therefore, the 3-man ad hoc that we have produced are not the proper ones, and we want a review. And nobody talked to us.
Yeah, I remember when you came to...
I came here, and I was the person that we had a press conference, and we said that. And I will tell you one thing, you won't believe it. You won't believe it. The whole of us that did that press conference, we later went to go and see the national chairman of the party. And we sat with him, and we said, sir, these are the processes, these are the things that were serially breached. And we think that something ought to be done. And he looked at us and said, okay, I've heard you.
And that was it.
And that was it.
Well,
and then they went back, and then it just continued. And so we said, okay, if I know that a process is stacked against me, and why would I go and I'm complaining about the process? So why would I continue to give credit to that process by being part of it? And so prior to that time, I wrote a letter. Most of the other people wrote letters and said, we are not part of this process. Just like
you exited from the primaries.
We exited so that you cannot now say. But look at the funny thing that happened. Even though we exited from the primaries, they still turned around and
allocated figures to you. I mean, I was laughing when I saw that.
They allocated some figures to me.
You and I, distinguished Senator Abaribe, know that all politics is local. And the PDP was counting on the governors to help out in the presidential primary and, of course, other primaries. And, of course, they needed to grant the governors certain concessions. But here you are. If you wanted to have come back to the Senate, I'm sure maybe there would have been an arrangement that may favor you one way or the other, though I know that the governor wants to contest the same seat with you now. But you were looking to be the governorship candidate of the party. And, of course, you know that incumbents have the right to actually sort of nominate their successors, certainly through the party process.
Precisely.
Isn't it local politics here?
No. What you're saying is correct. And we never said that incumbents have no right to nominate anybody they want. All we are talking about was just a fair process. Give me as much chance as you give whoever you want to bring, and let him come and face me in the field. And that is exactly what we continually told the party. The party can never turn around and say today that that wasn't what we wanted. I never asked anybody for any iota of assistance. I never. I just
even
said,
as a minority leader,
even as a minority leader,
of the Senate,
I never, you can,
a ranking member
precisely
of the PDP.
As a ranking member of the PDP, as a man who has put his life on the line for PDP. I never asked for anything. I simply said, give us a chance. Just give us a chance. Let's go into the field. Why would you not do that? That is the point. And that's why I said that somehow, like Ike said, there seems to be a natural habitat for those, of course, morally challenging things.
People would have said, as a former deputy governor of Abia State, that you should have been accorded certain respect by the party, that it looks like the PDP just used and dumped you. Do you feel betrayed?
No, I don't. I only feel disappointed in some of the leadership of the PDP. I would not want to talk about them, but I think that the same Ika Aboni said that they were pecuniary hypnotized.
Interesting. Or dollarized.
Well, let me just say pecuniary hypnotized. And therefore, it was very difficult for them to, just like, Samuel Abunwa, when they asked him, I think it was here. I think it was here that you asked him, what happened? Why would your people not vote for you? And said that when people see some dollar, they forget their father's name.
Forget their father's name. Yeah.
So I think that's exactly where we found ourselves. But I do not actually bother so much about it. Like Peter B said, I wanted to be governor. Not just to be governor, but to change the trajectory of the state. You understand? I think Peter said it with regard to that I'm desperate.
Yeah, that he's not desperate to be Nigerian president.
They're not desperate to be Nigerian president, but desperate. Yeah, so
to see the situation, the country change.
Precisely. It's exactly what I had. Desperate to see the situation change. And of course, when I got to ABGA, actually, they now said, this is your natural habitat.
And not the Labour Party. Why didn't you follow Peter Obi to his Labour Party?
I think by then, Labour Party had already concluded the arrangements and so on and so forth. But of course, the natural habitat of us in the Southeast is ABGA. Yeah. And you can see from what has happened in all parties now, all that the parties have told the Southeasterner is, you don't belong. You just don't belong. Yeah. And I think that what you need to do is that you make yourself to be important enough that you will be recognized. Because if you continue to be somebody who at all times they are looking at you as, well, just an appendage, they will never take you
using
serious.
You to win elections.
Precisely, they use you to win elections. I mean, look at how they used me.
And that's why I'm coming back. I'm coming back to that, Senator Abaribe. A lot of your colleagues are wondering, how could an Abaribe leave the PDP? Why would an Abaribe be treated by the PDP this way? This same Abaribe that stood his neck out, challenged the Buhari administration, even previous governments, always been at the forefront. Now, some of your followers will also say that you do not have the politics of ideology, and that's why you're defecting. What would you say to them? Because they say if you are ideological, you will stay in the PDP and reform it and not jump out of the ship.
If I was non-ideological, I would go to APC. Because if you have the major ideologies, it will now be the conservative APC and the progressive non-APC. So I'm still in non-APC. So I'm ideologically inclined that I will never be part of the hegemony. And I tell you one other thing. What did we complain about for APC? We complained that the APC government, led by President Muhammadu Buhari, was not fair. Just was totally unfair to the people who are not from what he claimed is his own place. You remember that in 2016, immediately after he had come and he started making his appointments, I was the first person to raise it on the floor of the Senate and said, you can have all the security apparatus under, he must be a Muslim, he must be a Northerner and all that. As if they're the only people who inhabit this country. And at the time that I was saying that, I was talking for the rest of Nigeria. Yeah, and I will still continue to talk for the rest of Nigeria.
Even the APC guys, sometimes when we have interviews with them, they'll be saying, yeah, it looks like Abaribe was actually right in some of the criticism. The good ones, they actually accepted them very well. But how about you, Senator Abaribe, misreading the politics of Abia State? You wanted to be governor. There's the old Bende and then old Aba regions and all of that, where there's always this tectonic movement between these two and all others. Did you by chance not, use your political barometer to weigh in the Abia politics well before agreeing to go for the governorship?
No, I actually read it very well. The people in Abia, what they wanted was not the shift from one part to the other. It was the removal of the hegemonic clique that had held Abia down and moved from one hand to the other. And so when we now got to the point where the current governor also wanted to hand over to someone, we said, no, if we don't break this chain, Abia will continue to sink the way it has done and continue to be a laughingstock of other states in and around Nigeria. So that was the primary aim, which was let's cut this whole thing off. And in Abia, because we have 3 senatorial zones and every senatorial zone has now tested the governorship, we felt that if you bring the best person forward, which was what I was trying to do, then the people of Abia should be left to make that choice.
Yeah.
Not to give the people of Abia a option choice of saying it either this person or none.
Since you've come full cycle.
Precisely, since we have come full cycle. So it wasn't anything about where you come from or all that. But that is, like I said, I was desperate to be there, but desperate to make Abia better for everyone. And it can only be better if you cut that, what do you call it now, godfatherism and those type of things. Of course, in almost every state, all of them try to do it. And of course, Nigeria will not be better if we don't break those kind of chains. That is the issue of the moment in front of each and every Nigerian today, because we have seen that you bring anybody, he's tied to the apron strings of who brought him, and nothing works.
Okay, now, Okeze Beazu, the incumbent governor of Abia State, is one person that we have thought that having been in the, in the circles, in your circles, both nationally and then locally, that there will be some good rapport between you and him. What really happened, actually? Because even when you made your announcement, your bid for the governorship, you took time to seek his blessings, you attended some functions with him. I could see that you're trying to romance him, actually, to ensure that at least there's that atmosphere of respect for each other. But what really happened between your relationship with him?
Well, I don't think that I'm the person that will have to answer that question. Any day that you have him in front of you, then you can answer. But one thing is very simple. When some people went to confront him and say, why? Just exactly this question that you asked. I say, oh no, the senator, I respect him very much, but he comes from the same place with me, and because he comes from the same place with me, he cannot be governor. And then they asked him the follow-up question, which he couldn't answer. Okay, if he comes from the same place with you, and you don't want him to be governor, why do you want to be senator? Since you're also coming from the same place. Does it mean that there are other local governments also within the same Abia South don't deserve to be senator? So, and of course, he couldn't answer that question. I do not know what happens to when you get into the executive office. In fact, David Mark asked me one day, he said, I would like to use you as an experiment. I said, let me see whether you can get there and change. Because he looked at something happens once you become...
When you get into executive
office. I think maybe because everybody kowtows, everybody begs you, everybody, even your fathers lie down on the ground for you, then maybe you start having delusions. That's what I would call it. But that's not a question that I can answer.
Okay, but you still have a good relationship with him personally?
I don't have any adverse relationship because, I respect your office. I come to you and I say, let us do this. But if you don't say, that you don't accept, all I asked him was, let us have a level playing ground. I don't care if you're bringing your younger brother. I don't care. But let the person get to the field with me and test himself with the public. So the problem now is, of course, you don't even want it to happen. You now get the party and then, of course, all those things. For me, I'm in Abga. I'm the senatorial candidate for Abga.
Both of you are going to slug it out.
He is going to be in the senatorial candidate. We will now meet and let the public choose between me and him.
And you think you have the capacity to withstand a sitting governor?
Well, the point really is that if it's in terms of going inside your bedroom and writing the list of a few people. You can do that, but the public, you're going to have to, the public will have to make up their mind about you.
And do you think it's going to be a referendum on what you have done, not just for Nigeria, but for the Southeast?
It's going to be a referendum on both of us. His performance as governor and my performance as a former Senate minority leader and somebody who talks about matters concerning the Igbo race.
Yes, and of course,